Wow, I did it. I graduated from a well-established and celebrated university, San Diego State University to be exact. I was not there for the full 4 years as I transferred after 3 years of community college in the area. Yet being there for a short time was an experience I'm very grateful for and will never forget my time there. It was something I was so excited for after learning to love school in community college thanks to a handful of my teachers who were truly amazing at their jobs. The excitement for graduation was amplified during the pandemic as I was really ready to move on to the next stage of my life. A new life with my wife in Japan. This is where things really began to change. I had always dreamed of moving to Japan and becoming a full-time YouTuber/videographer and photographer. Sounds like a lot, I'm sure, but in my head it made sense. I love all things camera, and being able to be in front of the camera, whether acting or whatever, was really fun for me. I spent several years of my free time during college learning the camera, taking trips, and filming many different types of videos for my channel, as well as more personal projects. While not all of them were posted and some procrastination was surely there, I often sacrificed things in order to enjoy my overall college experience, hang out with friends, work, and really enjoy the pleasures of being young in life as not to regret anything. The fear of regret is something I may get into another time, but it is almost that fear of regret that led me to be so all over the place. I love learning and pursued so many different mini projects, lacking focus to any one specific thing. I wanted to make sure I took a little taste of many different things in order to figure out where I really wanted to go in life. I lacked focus to really even sharpen my skills in much outside of photography or photo and video editing. Even as a Japanese major, I felt the shift from community college where I knew I was no A+ student, but I could tell I was up there in speech at one point with more top students and natives. I felt confident but not in a cocky way as I knew I had a long way to go, but I was proud of myself at that time. I even somehow impressed my teacher by getting a better grade on the final semester than the one before, which she said was really rare. Things were looking good for me to eventually land some localization or translation job in the future, or even English teaching in Japan. A year had passed after finishing the Japanese program in community college, and it was time for SDSU's program. My Japanese speech ability grew a lot in that time as I made a lot of Japanese speaking friends with other classmates, and studied a little bit on my own. What fell was my kanji ability, and that was going to have almost disastrous effects on my future tests. After entering SDSU, I then had to pass the required tests for Japanese. When taking them, I had an extremely shocking and rude encounter from the teacher who administrated the test, so much so that I was sure I failed due to how upset I was. But somehow I passed, even with the negative environment that I was in. But again, another story for another time. I was in, and more excited than ever to start class. The kanji and the workload slapped me in the face, as I'm sure it does to every new university student, but I did my best to catch up on my studies, make friends in class, and make sure I was really learning the material. I was barely hanging on, as my test scores were embarrassingly bad, and I felt the return of feelings I had in high school where I was not at all a studious kid. I felt really stressed. Then suddenly, it was over, and it was time to go to Japan to practice what I had learned and enjoy my winter break after all of the hard work and fun during my first semester at SDSU. I had time to reflect on what went so wrong, and I realized it was the way I was studying. It didn't work for me, so I had to change it up in the spring, which came really fast with a new scary virus in the news. COVID-19 had officially been announced, although many say, including myself, it was likely around for the past 6 months as many people were sick or dying with similar symptoms. I myself was very sick at the end of the fall semester in 2019, so I wondered if that was it. The world was changed, and so was my schooling, which we all thought would go back to normal soon. Spoiler alert, it did not for the rest of my university experience. I spent the summer, fall semester, and my final spring semester inside with small walks outside or trips to get some fast food, which I really looked forward to almost every day. This was such a transformative time for me. The end of spring throughout the summer brought so much unrest throughout the states and in my own city. I couldn't handle it all. Everyone arguing with each other turned into bitter enemies, and everyone refusing to just listen and understand. Hatred was everywhere, and words of hate came out of the mouths of people I least expected. Not to say I didn't understand it, but it was too much for me, and I had to withdraw from having such upsetting emotions day in and day out. I took a month break that turned into almost a 2-month break, albeit a spotty second month with on and off use of social media. I had to unfollow people and mute stories to avoid the constant bantering. Again, it isn't that I didn't understand, but it's really not healthy to constantly be hooked into it. During that 1 or 2 months, I felt I rediscovered myself. I had several moments where everything felt clear, a sort of lifting from the world where I could see what was ahead of me. I felt calm again. I felt like me again. If the kid I once was came back and just gave me a hug alongside of God, it was beautiful. And I was almost reborn into who I was, or into who I lost sight of. Something like that. I became a more grounded, true self that was focused and ready for life's challenges. I meditated a lot and reconnected myself with a more spiritual side through Zen Buddhism, Taoism, and even a little Tai Chi. I've always been a little bit interested in Asian philosophy. I stopped looking at photos of Japan every day and watching many of my favorite YouTubers as it made me too sad I couldn't be there with my then girlfriend, now wife. I also felt sad as my study abroad trip was cancelled and I didn't have much hope for the future of being able to study abroad, but I tried to stay positive. I got back into drawing and even ordered my own iPad Pro with an engraved quote from Bruce Lee on the back and the Apple Pencil 2 to go with it. I really got into drawing again. I was drawing for hours a day, learning new ways to draw, digital drawing, animation, and digital animation. Growing up, I always wanted to be an artist, and I realized much of myself changed after entering high school. I entered a very rebellious period in my life, and in that I gained many things, but I also think I lost many things. One of those were some interest and strong focus. I remember as a kid, I would draw for hours until I got it right. I felt I had reconnected with myself just the way I needed to do because I had been a little lost since high school in ways, and in others found. I wasn't a sad mess from high school through community or anything. I was loving life and community and finally finding a place where I fit in with people. I was me and had friends who knew me. It was real, but getting a chance to be closer with myself was an enlightenment. I took this time to learn about things outside of Japan and things I was previously studying. I learned a lot about people and companies I really liked, art, history, photography, and even reignited my love for Star Wars. I was full of knowledge, and all of a sudden especially on Apple, Steve Jobs, Pixar, Bruce Lee, and a lot of Star Wars topics. Star Wars especially got me really through some hard times. I realized how much of a huge Star Wars fan I've been my whole life. I loved learning and sinking my teeth into a great story or being inspired to do something great in the world. I devoted a lot of my free time those days to learning about Star Wars, Steve Jobs, Bruce Lee, and Pixar. I connect with these topics on a special level, each a little different, but overall touching the same place in my heart as the other. I love these things, and each topic inspires me greatly. I wanted to do something big, or be a part of a great team. My drive to be an English teacher in Japan faded away with time and was replaced with things that felt more fun, exciting, creative, and more me. The ideas were going crazy. Every day it was like I had a new business idea, channel idea, career route I wanted to take, or plan for the next few years. Something had to stick, and I wanted to be successful at something I loved. I wanted to be most of all successful at being me, my true self. My passion for art never faded, and I have always been a creative person. I know this myself, as well as having been told that all my life. I'm a bit different from others, and knowing so can be just as exciting as it is scary and lonely. Realizing these things made me realize I need to be somewhere I can be creative at work. I knew certain paths were not going to be for me. I just wouldn't make it in them. I also felt regret for not going to the film department or into digital animation, but I was almost done, so I knew I couldn't turn back now. I had someone counting on me to finish school, and I committed myself to finishing my Japanese major because I wasn't going to be someone in the future who said, "Yeah, I used to study Japanese back in college, but I don't remember it anymore." I thought for me that would be such a waste of the past several years. I worked hard for that, and I wasn't going to give up. I took on a minor from the journalism department in international studies and worked extremely hard, taking extra classes for my last 2 semesters, where the last one was 21 units. I was tired and completely burnt out at the end of it, having several panic attacks, not feeling like I was going to make it, and I was going to let my soon-to-be wife at the time, my friends, family, and even myself down. Those were the toughest semesters I have ever had. But before I knew it, I was married and walking across the stage in my graduation gown, and something of a personal flair I felt I needed to have as a self-expression is so important to me, a pair of green Adidas, which were green because it was Rex's pattern from Toy Story, a recent collaboration by Adidas and Pixar. Toy Story being important to me, I knew I had to wear them. I love movies, anime, cartoons, and technology. Pixar was right in the intersection between technology and art. I grew to love and appreciate it even more after learning so much about it. I previously didn't even realize Steve Jobs started and owned Pixar prior to 2020. I wanted to be there at the Pixar office in the 90s. I mean, wow, what a great story, full of great creative people. But without getting too distracted, it's time to continue this piece. I was done with school and waiting for a visa approval so I could move to Japan. Wow, it had really begun. This adventure I was planning for and waiting for so long was finally here, and I didn't want to go. I felt scared because I realized I didn't know what I wanted anymore in life. All I knew is it wasn't English teaching anymore. That was a short stint that was no more of any interest to me. Living in Japan was also something that was starting to lose its shine in my mind. I was still excited for my new adventure, but something was different. I started to feel uncertain, especially having no job lined up in Tokyo yet. I was hit with such a rush of uncertainty and fear that I had never felt before. I felt as if I was standing on the edge of a drop-off in the ocean, just looking out into the abyss. I felt pressure and unprepared for what the world had ahead of me. The looming school debt I had incurred over the years was going to become a realized thing soon enough, and I had no idea what job I wanted to do or who I really was anymore. After almost a year since that enlightening 2 months, I got so busy with schoolwork I hadn't been able to draw much, due to much video projects I had planned, or really much else of my own personal endeavors. It was school, family time, and a bit of Star Wars in between. I was still so burnt out even 2 months after school ended. I never felt like that before, completely dead inside with no desire to do much of anything. Maybe I was, and maybe I still am, somewhat depressed. School was over and it was time for me to really do something with my life, something that made money to add to it. But what was it? Well, fast forward 4 months and here I am in Japan with an internship around the corner, having something to do with being the creative on a team. I can't say too much about it, but it certainly seems like an exciting project. I was told to send a message to the boss by a friend of mine, and I really appreciate that. I really do believe we can't all get by in life without connections and some friends to help you along the way. I think this is especially true in creative fields. So it felt really good that someone reached out to lend a hand to me. I had been applying to many places for some time with no luck anywhere. My wife is plenty worried for me as I am for the future here in Tokyo. Life is expensive, so I need to work, of course, but it is also fast and so incredibly special that it shouldn't be wasted on doing something you don't truly love doing. This is where things get so tough for me, and I'm sure many other college graduates who decided their major either wasn't what they wanted to work in, or upon graduating still didn't have the necessary skills or proof of such skills to show an employer they got what it takes. A degree sometimes just isn't enough to say you have what it takes. Some of us end up wishing we did something more promising for a major, or at least did a lot better in their majors. Some of us want to carve our own pathway in the world and don't know where to start. We have to start with what we love or what we can do first. This is tricky for me. What I love doing and what makes money often don't cross paths, at least not right away. I don't have the skills right now to get a job in animation. Not on the programming computer side or on the actual drawing side. I'm a photographer already by trade, but being in a new city, I don't have a way to run out and start making money enough to live on yet. I'm a videographer as well, and I do enjoy editing, but seeking out those types of jobs, I see they, understandably, want proof of experience working with clients. Well, I usually just did things on my own. I could start there, but am I good enough yet? Being a Japanese major, I always wanted to get into game localization from Japanese to English, but surprisingly, those jobs are hard to find, and many are back in America. Something else is that many require proof of a Japanese test to show your business or fluent level in Japanese, which is another thing I don't have. I've never felt so unprepared, like walking into a meeting where you're supposed to present and you have no idea that there even was a meeting or what it was on. Everyone just stares at you while you're standing there trying to think of what to say. I am trapped in that deer in the headlights, sweaty, dry mouth, and almost deafening silence, feeling what one would feel in front of a group waiting for you to do the thing you're there to do for, and you don't understand how to do it yet. I ended up regretting not making so many different choices to pursue other routes. I want to run home and give it all up. But that isn't me. I'm not the kind of person to run away like that at the first sign of difficulty. I didn't give up my major, and I won't give this up either. I started something, so I want to pursue it. Maybe someday I'll decide my days in Japan are coming to an end, and it's time to go home to America to pursue something different. But that day is not today, and I won't let it be anytime soon either. Not until I've really tried my best out here. There's still something for me here. My intuition tells me this, and I have come this far, so why not go further? Intuition is a curious thing, and letting it guide me is what I have to do. It has led others into the space they're supposed to be like Steve Jobs, who for instance wanted to become a Zen Buddhist monk at one point in his life, moved to Japan, or even become a poet in France. Learning that Steve Jobs wanted to become a monk or a poet, but instead ended up co-founding the most successful company in the world, inspiring countless people, and leaving something insanely great behind has showed me something. Maybe it isn't about becoming everything we want to be, but instead following your intuition down one path and staying focused on it. No matter what that path may be, we must decide to dedicate our lives to it. This is where I struggle, because I know deep down inside what I want, and it offers a rough path with no promise of success, yet it's what I feel most drawn to and will return to time and time again. After a lot of thinking and taking about a week break on this video, I came full circle back to what I wanted to do in the first place. I realized I became distracted and unmotivated by thinking of the difficulty of chasing such dreams. I also realized I'd become very focused on many other important things as well, such as finding a job to support myself in the meantime that gives me a decent wage to live off of, without taking 100% of my time by commuting to somewhere far from Tokyo. Job searching has been less than fruitful, and that's what led me to feel so lost. I have a major I can't really see the gains from yet without taking a JLPT2 test score, which won't happen this year, and now being in a new country with a lot of expectations placed on me to do other things has really started to take its toll. Not to say it's anyone else's fault other than my own, but I almost feel a sense of guilt whenever I try to do anything other than what's expected of me, like job searching or other things. Which led me to instead do many things in my spare time that weren't related to what I wanted out of life. But what is that? Filmmaking, YouTube, and photography. All things camera really interest me, and doing photography, editing, or other things, I find I get into a zone where I almost lose grip of reality around me. This is who I want to be and who I feel like I can become with more dedication and hard work. From here on, I have to keep this focus. I may want to learn other things, and I do dabble in programming, digital art, 3D animation, and a few other things. But I started looking at the road ahead of many of these things and realized that's not the path I wanted to take. It's not where I wanted to end up in life. When I think about where I see myself in the future, it's either here on YouTube full-time or making films as my career. Above all, I value freedom and creativity in my future. So instead of doing other things, it's time to be more serious about the pathways I want to take and where I want to be. I have done some learning and spent time exploring, but I feel like it's time to stick to something and make it work for me since I know this is the pathway I want. All that being said, I wonder how long I can stay here in Japan. During lockdown, I started to really change, and before moving to Japan, I began to question if being here is what I even wanted anymore. I chose to stick to it because I had spent so much time and effort making this a reality that I needed to dedicate myself to at least checking it out for a while and seeing what comes of it. I have only been here 2 months, and I haven't really done much yet in the way of things I wanted to do, partially due to the heat, which I hate, the pandemic situation here, and my lack of motivation since arriving to do, well, much of anything. Mainly the latter. So with that, I wondered, why even think this way, without giving living here without studying abroad another shot? As my original plan was to use studying abroad as kind of a testing period, to grow as an artist during school, and to see if I really enjoyed living in Japan. This all looped me back into the job searching process, and I realized that was a big part of it. I just can't find much here to do that I'm getting positive responses from. As far as what careers outside of creative fields I want, they exist for me more in America, which loops me right back to the thoughts of, how long can I really stay here? I love it here, but I do question my ability to really be here as an American. It is an odd looping cycle, but instead of trying to figure it all out, I'm just going to start doing it and see where it takes me. If in 5 years or so I'm doing good with a decent income and my quality of life is better, then I'll see from there where life takes me. But if I'm still stuck in the cycle somewhere, then maybe life in Japan just isn't for me. The last thing I want for myself is to be some cynical gaijin that I often see online. Because if that's the case, I might as well go home where I can live a more positive, happy life, if being in Japan really makes me that negative and cynical of the world around me. It's better to be in an environment that you feel more positive in. However, I'm sure this video has gone on long enough by now, so if you made it this far, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to me and my thoughts on life right now. It honestly means the world to me to have you here, and I hope I don't sound like too much of a downer. I just have entered one of those cycles in life where I'm questioning my path and what I thought I wanted. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you here again next time. Later.
You've got to find what you love. And that is as true for work as it is for your lovers. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And like any great relationship, it just gets better and better as the years roll on. So keep looking, don't settle. Stay hungry, stay foolish.